Modern women are a huge disappointment. That's the feeling amongst many men. This generation of women are low in femininity and accountability while being very high in entitlement. So therefore, men need to raise their standards, expect more from women. Or maybe we should do the opposite. Perhaps we should lower our expectations. Stop thinking that these women will change. Stop hoping for improvement. This is the question that lots of men are scared to ask, but by the end of this video, you're going to have the answer. Will I be happier just accepting women the way they are?
So is this thing gonna get bigger or like what? Why am I even here? I'm fucking cold.
Give it a fucking second.
I've actually watched that video a bunch of times and it makes me laugh every single time. The guy's just lost all patience. He's just like, just give it a fucking second. And to be clear, his frustration is understandable. Her attitude and her behavior is ridiculous. I'll never understand why women aren't more embarrassed to be an adult throwing a tantrum, like complaining and whining. She expects him to plan the date, build the fire. She doesn't have to contribute. She just gets to sit there and complain. And obviously, this is not a quality woman. You don't solve problems by throwing tantrums. But realistically speaking, you will encounter this kind of behavior from most women. Even the highest quality woman is going to have her moments. Nobody's perfect. I'm not, you're not. But when a woman does slip up into some toxic feminine behavior, how are you meant to respond? Which one of these three paths are you meant to take? None of them seem great. Well, in this video, we're going to talk about the fourth path, which is lowering your expectations. It is a tempting but very dangerous path to walk down. But lots of men end up adopting this as a strategy because they don't want a life of being constantly disappointed. They want to accept that she's never going to be like him. She's not always going to show rationality. She's not going to be solution-oriented. She's a woman. She's going to be emotional. She's going to be inconsistent. She's going to have crazy expectations. But maybe if you just expect that to occur, that's predictable, you know it's coming, you won't be so frustrated. The point isn't to let her off the hook. You still push for accountability, rationality, clear communication. But the point is that you push for those things without the indignation that comes from expecting her to have acted differently. You see her deviate and you think, oh yeah, that's predictable. And this isn't intended as some favor for her. This is for your benefit. It is a strategic lowering of your expectations so that you get less annoyed. Because it's not a pleasant sensation to constantly be stressed and to be feeling like, I can't believe you're acting like this. It's a lot more pleasant to be calm and to be like, oh yeah, this is basically what I expected. And on the surface, this might sound really smart, like this is a little psychological hack that you can use to make your marriage a lot happier and a lot more peaceful. But truthfully, there is a lot of danger in adopting this strategy. If you do this, you need to be aware that you're playing with fire. And speaking of danger, did you know that every single time I leave the house, I lock the door? I do it because I'm scared that a criminal is going to come in and steal my couch or something. I've even thought about buying one of those full security camera setups. But I don't know how rational that is because truthfully, I don't keep much cash in the house. You know where most of my valuables actually are? They're online. My passwords, my bank accounts. It is my online world where I'm truly vulnerable. And realizing that, it makes an online security system a no-brainer. And that's why I use Aura, the sponsor of today's video. We all know that the apps and the services that we use are harvesting our data, but it sucks because what are you going to do? Just live without technology? But that's what's great about Aura. You don't have to go off-grid in order to get some privacy. If you or somebody that you know has been hacked or had your identity stolen, you know how scary it is, how much you wished that you had protection. Aura gives you that peace of mind. They identify when data brokers are selling your information and they automatically remove your details from these sites and they keep them off. Other services offer this too, but none of them offer the same number of features for the price that Aura does. Just look at everything that you get, including round-the-clock US-based support 24/7 and $5 million in identity theft insurance. It's 2025. We know better than to leave ourselves unprotected. You can try Aura for free for 14 days at aura.com/Alexander Grace. And in those 2 weeks, Aura will get to work scrubbing your personal information off these data broker sites. Aura is highly affordable, but peace of mind is priceless. Check them out. Okay, back to the video and the hidden dangers of low expectations. First off, it's a slippery slope. It might start off with, yeah, I expect her to get emotional and defensive, and it's going to take her time before she's able to really show solid accountability. But very quickly it becomes, oh yeah, she never takes accountability. I've accepted it. I mean, that's not good. In that instance, lowering your standards is just a permission slip that you've signed, allowing her to escape personal responsibility, giving her permission to just be lazy. And there are some women who will consciously argue with you, insisting that you lower your expectations because that suits her. That's what she wants. Her end goal is actually to convince you that she is helpless.
I'm not like everyone, which he knows, but still causes conflict. I am not able to do things that I don't want to do. I was a sugar baby before I met my boyfriend. Like, I don't want to work a job. I can't. You guys say that you can't, but I really... It's not a me problem. It's not that there's something wrong with me.
To the masculine mind with its natural ambition, this is difficult to understand. How much effort some women will put into not working. Avoiding work seems to become like a full-time job with all of that energy expenditure. But you don't see this typically from men because to the masculine mind, the idea that his female partner is going to view him as useless and incompetent and lazy, that's a nightmare. We couldn't stand for somebody to have such a low opinion of us. And so we have difficulty imagining that somebody else would voluntarily step into that. But in this instance, your gender is blinding you because there are absolutely women out there whose explicit goal is to convince you that they are incompetent, that they can't work, they can't clean, they can't contribute, they don't know how to cook, and it's impossible for them to learn. They don't know how to stay rational and not let their emotions just take over. There's even women who will claim that they don't know how to not scream at you. Free will just doesn't exist for her, and she can't possibly be expected to not yell at you. To men, this doesn't make sense because look how much effort and energy is being expended just trying to avoid very reasonable standards like speak to me respectfully. Why spend all of this energy convincing me that you are incapable instead of just making a little bit of effort? Isn't that preferable? Well, no, because if you consider the long-term strategy, if she admits that she is capable of doing some small things, she's worried you're going to realize that she's capable of contributing a lot more, maybe even that she should be doing 50-50. But if she's able to convince you that she's essentially useless, that she can't be expected to contribute much, well, then she's got the golden ticket. She gets to just coast and live off your energy. How do you know that she hasn't fooled you? Like you think that you're in charge, you're the man, you're the superior one. But maybe that's a belief that she has instilled inside you because you believing that makes it a lot easier for her to just coast. Allowing you to think that you're the superior one in her mind is a small price to pay for permission to be lazy. And I'm not saying that there's no room for adjusting your expectations, lowering your standards, but what I'm trying to point out is that that path is not without its own set of dangers. There are long-term consequences to doing this that you should be aware of. First off is there's the possibility of losing respect for her. If you consistently do more than your fair share and you let her off the hook, you don't demand any accountability, how are you going to prevent against the contempt that grows when you lose respect for her? Because once that happens, it's very difficult to bring it back. Couples therapy research confirms that contempt is almost always a death blow for a relationship. There's also the possibility of a total breakdown in communication. You stop checking in with her, stop asking her opinion, asking her for advice. You stop working on things together because you think, well, what's the point? But if you start down that path, the distance between the two of you is likely to just keep growing and growing and growing. There's also the possibility of an unconscious misogyny starting to take root in your psyche. In many ways, holding high standards and expectations for women is a sign of respect. It communicates, I know that you're capable of doing this. I think of you as an equal. I want you to join me here. But if you just let women off the hook, you lower your standards, perhaps your mind starts to get infected with thoughts, not that I'm a man, she's a woman, we're different, we each have our own strengths, but instead, she's a woman, she's less than me. Women are inferior. It can start to create an entire worldview that is difficult to dislodge once it takes its place. And lastly, you may just find it difficult to really let go of the asymmetry that exists in a relationship. If you're contributing a lot more, your innate sense of fairness and justice is just going to be triggered every time you see her checking out. At a fundamental level, when things are not in balance in your relationship, it's very easy for minor disagreements to suddenly become about that dynamic, and things can quickly spiral into a lot of heat and tension. And it's actually that fourth one that I want to go into a lot more depth with, because there is a smart way around this. There is a method where you can lower your expectations for the woman you're in a relationship with in a way that does not create resentment or a loss of self-respect. First of all, be conscious of what you're doing. Lowering your expectations here is not an act of surrender, it is a decision that you have made. Second, be very specific about which areas you are lowering your expectations in. Identify all of the behaviors that you find problematic and sort them into two categories. Yes, these things I can let go of. These things are non-negotiable. You don't need to drop your standards across the board. You can pick and choose. And if you do lower your standards in certain areas, make sure you do step number 3, which is to make sure that you are receiving value elsewhere in compensation of that which you have let go of. A healthy relationship is one that is equal, but equality does not mean uniform duties. Rather, a fair contribution to the relationship according to your specific strengths. This is actually quite useful because each gender is different. Just think of the stereotype of women raising children and men making money. That is not an unequal relationship. Both people are playing their part as part of the team. But if you consciously decide to lower your standards in one particular area, like let's just say she's terrible at communication and conflict resolution, and you are picking up more of the emotional labor of showing the leadership of how to navigate through those situations, and you lower your standards expecting her to really do better. Well, in that case, you are doing more of the heavy lifting when it comes to conflict resolution. So make sure that you expect her to pick up an additional set of responsibilities in a different area. Maybe she takes more of a lead in orchestrating your social calendar, organizing get-togethers with friends, planning holidays. Maybe she keeps track of schedules and appointments. The specifics of what you want her to do is going to depend on your individual relationship as well as your deficits and her strengths. But the reason why it is so important that you ask for her to step up in a different area is because without that, your resentment is likely to grow. You need to be brutally honest with yourself. You need to have very good self-awareness. You need to feel into your emotions and know when that resentment is starting to bubble up, because if you leave it, it could really, really create a lot of damage. But if you are proactive, you can make sure that you are adjusting the structures and expectations of your relationship in such a way that those resentments never actually do any real damage. And for some guys, simply showing gratitude and appreciation can be enough. Like even if he is handling the conflict resolution and just overall in the relationship, he's doing 60% while she's doing 40%. He might be willing to stomach that inequality if at all times she is grateful and appreciative and sweet and kind. Like, yes, she acts irrationally and throws like emotional tantrums instead of trying to solve problems during conflict. But if in the aftermath, she's just like, thank you so much. I don't know how I'd do this without you. You're so amazing. Thank you for keeping me grounded and keeping us on track. He might be willing to let the previous 2 hours of an argument go and just be like, wow, that was really unpleasant, but gosh, I feel good about myself. The fact that we succeeded and now she's just loving me and she's thankful. Personally, I'm constantly impressed at men's capacity to tolerate inequality in their relationships so long as there's a lot of appreciation shown. I guess men just have this deficit of actually being thanked and shown like appreciation, that just even small amounts, it just seems to go a long way with men. And so when asking which strategy to adopt, which one of these paths should I use, the answer is all of them at certain points. There is no one size fits all. You have to be adaptable. Sometimes your partner is going to be acting so ridiculous that the smartest thing to do is to just walk away. Other times, you should adopt the female point of view because she might be right about something that you've overlooked, that you don't see, that you don't understand. Femininity at its best serves a beautiful purpose of grounding masculinity, which can become closed-minded and rigid if left by itself, into opening and experiencing the moment and feeling joy and other pleasant emotions. In healthy relationships, the masculine and the feminine, they learn from each other. And then at other times, the right thing to do is to argue. Like there will be some topics, some values, some standards that are so important that you should not let it go. That is worth fighting about. All of these paths are valid sometimes. And I would say that that includes the strategy of sometimes lowering your expectations. You might not be aware of this, but I've seen women use this strategy to very positive effects in their lives. Some women spend years frustrated at their husband, nagging their husbands, do this, do that, be more like this. And then occasionally you find a woman who just gives up. She lowers her expectations. She stops thinking that he's going to change into somebody else and just accepts her man the way that he is. And it almost always makes things better. She's no longer trying to turn him into one of her girlfriends that she can gossip with, and instead she just accepts that he's a man, he's stoic, he's a problem solver, and you know what, I actually like that. And this is what I want to spend the rest of the video talking about. The way that women think about men, what their expectations are, and what lowering your standards means for a woman. Talking to women about this and thinking about it from their point of view is a really interesting thought experiment because it can really increase your sense of autonomy and self-awareness when you see how you appear from a woman's perspective, when you see yourself through her eyes. If that sounds interesting to you, then you're going to want to watch the rest of this video. The extended version is available on Patreon. If you like my videos, which I assume you do because you've watched this one all the way to the end, and you know that you're going to enjoy hearing about this stuff in more depth, then my Patreon is perfect for you. All of my videos come with Patreon exclusive extended versions that go into a lot more detail. There's a link in the description box below where you can sign up. I hope you'll come and join me.